All right, my friends, here we go. And today we are doing the graduate show, but from the 1,000 level plus. This, I gotta refresh the page. This graduate show is less, not nearly as intense as the graduate show last week, where we had something like 30 some people. So this week is a little bit more mellow. Good, because honestly, this month is way too intense for me, man. We got the streaming, and so I'm gonna do this show, take care of my life or whatever, and then we're streaming at about 2 hours from now. Okay, so let's just get a brief look. These are the people who are graduating today, and we're gonna do, as I said, the 1,000 plus. We stopped with Waluka yesterday. So, watch this. Quad XE, thank you for subscribing. So let's read what Y. Steinitz says. I am finally graduating. I decided to join the dojo after becoming one of those players who played the same opening in the same way, meaning I had started to lose interest in playing altogether. I am sure you'll be able to guess which opening I'm referring to. I had decided that I needed to have a training program to become a more versatile player. Of course, abandoning what I knew to work on my weaknesses meant that my rating had taken a dramatic hit, approximately 150 ChessCom ELO. However, I have finally returned to where I was prior, and my game has improved consistently and with a greater understanding. I'm really enjoying the dojo's community aspect and find it incredibly insightful to discuss chess puzzles, problems with people who are tackling the same ones as I am. Also, analyzing my games to see my weaknesses and improve them has been a game changer for my game. I would love to get some feedback to my post-analysis from a sensei. Many thanks. FYI, don't play the London. Okay. Now, you guys know my spiel. The first thing, without even looking at anything about what Y. Steinitz is saying, is that it would be ideal if Y. Steinitz just tried to play principled moves in the opening and forgot about the opening until they made 1,200. That's what the program says, okay? We are actually dubing it a little bit in 3.0. It was very controversial amongst the sensei, but the 1,100 to 1,200 gets to taste a little bit of openings, but it's not much. And so again, I know it's fun to think about the London and how terrible it is, or other openings, right? But it's not, it's going to hurt you more than it's going to help you, because learning to play principled moves is an art in itself. All right, let's take a look. Here's Y. Steinitz. So here we go. This is Yannick. We're going to follow. And yeah, they were down in the dumps, and it has risen. It's risen quite nicely. So it would be interesting, he's talking about mistakes or problems in their game. It might have been interesting to hear what, Steinitz thought they were. First of all, I like to look at clubs, European, aus Deutschland, UK. How can you be both UK and Deutschland, huh? How can it be? All right, I don't know. So then we go activity, and we're going to go back one. Did a pretty good amount of work. And one thing we're kind of working on, and Kostya didn't understand what I was telling him, but in terms of time spent, you can get the endgame algorithms done kind of quickly here. So it's like we do, Kostya was like, well, we value them. So it doesn't matter if they get them done more quickly. Okay, anyways, you can see that in terms of time, it hasn't been that much, but in terms of points scored, the endgame is bigger on the wheel, as is common. At this cohort level. Later, it's just the algos are so intense that we're learning it, It takes a little bit longer. Okay, so this looks great, and we're going to look at this, and basically they did a lot of the end game, just a touch of the tactics. They didn't do too much, and they got through. So that's like, in terms of their own chess, what we can say is, if you did just a little bit of work and you went that far, that's pretty great. And they were, anyways. So let's look at a game. And let's look. Wait, this is coming from a 3-0 blitz game? Wait, it looks like, wait, what? This is from a 10-minute game. My first game submitted is 15-10 if preferred. However, this game would be mine. My first uploaded game is 30, but I've already reviewed it by Lawrence. Okay. I can't do a 10-minute. It's just too much. And notice what's going on here too. Like in this game, Steinitz, you didn't use any time. So I'll tell you what. We'll look at the next game, but I just want to say here, like the easy improvement to make is use your time. Use it. Okay, let's go over here to this one. And this is also a pretty quick game. And why Steinitz is black, and black is not using their time here either, okay? So this is typical. It's not, you're not the only one, but this is how you can improve. All right, let's get into it. Okay. Right, and this is a good reason not to be studying openings at this level, because bishop b5, beyond it being a tactical mistake, is just the completely wrong idea, right? We have one bad piece, and white is putting their good piece in contact with our bad piece. So even if we didn't have knight e5, this would be bad news. Okay, and then of the responses, I think it's important to say that this isn't it. That's definitely the worst of the responses, because now this bishop has gone from 0 to hero. My personal sense is this is a winning position for black. Okay, here we go. a4. Notice a4, just psychologically, it's like, it's like he's scratching the itch. In the same way, the next move is going to be scratching the itch. It's like, no, this doesn't help you at all, boss. It doesn't help you at all, what you just did. So we say thank you. Uh-oh, b6. Oh, no. Oh, no. Oh, no. Okay, now, Steinitz, very important. I want you to see something. All right, look at the time here. 9:50, 9:49. So you spent less than 1 second on this move. Basically, your hand, the motion of your hand in this move took more time than you were thinking, right? So it's just like, it was just the hand. It was just like boom, boom. So I want to stress that this is all about clock time for you, your improvement at this stage. It has nothing to do with chess knowledge, okay? You will make it to the next cohort easily if you can slow it down. Imagine if you just sat on your hands even just 10 seconds, you would find bishop takes b4. Okay? Right. That has nothing to do with studying openings, nothing about any of that stuff. And it's more than a pawn. Because in the game, the guy was desperate to shut down your bishop, even like gambled his pawn. And so he gets to shut down your beautiful bishop. Oh, no. Okay. So one of the things for you to do, I think, is to try to force yourself to play some longer games. Because what you're doing is impulsive, and that's what you need to fix. And now we got to say, I don't even know if white's all that much worse anymore. You know, they have a little bit of compensation. Now, here's the other thing. It's very important. Notice that you are spending more time analyzing this game than you did playing the game. Right? Yeah. Now, I don't think knight e7 can be a bad move. Can't. And this, I don't even think it's that great of a move. So h6, fine. Now, do you have to play g5? You don't, but I think it's fine what you did. We definitely want to play knight f5 here. So notice the black bishop, this bishop over here is not a great piece. And you can kind of persecute it with knight f5. And then after knight f5, they got to worry about this stuff too, as well as the bishop coming out over here. So you can see now it would have been great if we had played knight f5. I want to stress, Weisstein, you've still yet to use a minute on this game. Queen c7. Okay, now this is frisky. Because the dude had knight d5 here. Right? So I don't know. We definitely need a variation. And I know you couldn't have calculated it with the limited amount of time that you have here. You know, maybe you're winning after that. I don't know. I don't know, maybe. But we'd need a variation. Okay, so this all went down, and now you are completely winning again. Now you're winning again. Superficial. Okay, good move. Superficial. Good move. Yeah, white gave you the file. You have to at least say thank you. Good move. A good move. How can that be wrong? That's just lose. In fact, it can be, because here you can win the piece with g4. And here white encourages you to play g4. Now, Weisstein, look at your time. 8:21. You took just a couple seconds. Boss, g4. Game over. Game over. So a couple things I want you to see. You played a couple moves which showed that you've done some studying. For example, the bishop b7, knight e5. Great, great. And you had the attack on c3 and the attack on e5, but you're not thinking. In this game, you're not thinking. I want to stress, you shouldn't even feel bad about it. You should just say to yourself, right. What Kraai is seeing is that he's done this graduate show 1,000 times. And at this level, both players in the dojo and the players that the players in the dojo play against are not able physically to think for longer periods of time. And I am one of those people, and that is my problem. And then it's just like joy and rainbows open up for you after that. You know, it's that simple. Okay. Joy and rainbows. And your opponent too, just blundering everything away, really. Okay, let's end it there. And my plea is simple. My plea is simple. You have a simple way to get to the next cohort, and it is all about slowing down. Hi, Abdul. Okay, so boom. Next up, we got Jack. I believe this is a different Jack than the famous Jack. And Jack has graduated a sec. Oh, you know what I blundered? Hold on. Kraai is going to do this right. He's going to go games. I'll tell you what I'm supposed to be doing. When it comes in here, this is Grunion, and I'm supposed to mark this as review. Okay, I did it. So, oh, no, I blundered this whole thing. Look at Kraai. What are you doing? What are you doing? Just messing it all up. Okay, so this is Jack. And Jack is almost ready to graduate again. Look at that. 1397. Clubs. UK Dojo. We got some strong players from the UK. I feel I'm gonna insult the rest of the world for a little bit, but in my experience, like there's people in the dojo all over the world, but the players who are going after it in the most systematic way, so far, just from my experience, are the Europeans. They're the ones that you see consistently working. You know, guys like Hubskirt are doing the rook endgame progression, like really deepening themselves into it. Okay, so then we got activity. We're going to go back one. 8 hours of work, even though there's already a bunch in 1300, 1400. And if we go 13, 14, yeah, they already did 20. Somehow they already got 24 hours in here. But that's a good distribution, right? And let's look at a game from Jack. So these look like online games. I always like to choose a OTB game if I sense that one of them is an OTB game. Let's just choose the most recent. This was played just last week. It teaches you about tempi and tempo, which has helped me play better games and better moves. I played with 95% accuracy and only made 2 inaccuracies. Okay, that is computer talk, right? And I think it's kind of okay to look after you have done your analysis, but if you do it right away, then, you know, not only will you lose the ability to think about the game yourself, but yeah, the whole process of discovery will kind of be lost here. So, castles, boom. The idea of bishop h6 is to offer the bishop trade and attack black's kingside. Okay, now let me just say, this move is controversial, bishop h6. Maybe bishop h6. But it's important to note that white is spending a tempo with this move. So a great rule of thumb is it's a bad decision to play bishop h6 if they aren't going to mate you, right? Now this move I'm not thrilled with because it enables knight e5, right? So we need to do something else, I think. I think knight c6 looks very plausible. c5 is frisky, but probably doable, right? And, you know, white is the one who's broken the rules with bishop h6. And you're absolutely right that they should keep the tension. And let's talk about why. The reason they break the tension is, you know, people have been burned in the past by some way, like, you know, their queen was attacking, they lost the bishop third. She's like, I'm going to get rid of it. So in general, we don't want to take the bishop. There might be some circumstances we will. But as you go up the ranks, you will see that players will become more comfortable with keeping the tension. Right? It involves more calculation. You have to make sure that there's not maybe a problem with the queen on h6, that the queen's not getting attacked or something like that. Here it's fine. So snip, snop, h3, poor move. Poor move. Bishop f3 saves the tempo and doubles white's pawns. If you don't like h3, you should say why we don't. Knight e5 looks very good for white. Okay. But it's not the most ridiculous thing to play bishop f5. Okay, I think you kind of need to do it too when you play bishop f5. Yeah, this is a very spicy position. Okay, and now look, h6 is a poor move. Now you said it yourself. It's all about tempo. And what is white going to do? He's going to take your bishop. Next move. So when you play h6, you're just encouraging them to take the bishop, right? In general, also, we want to say that knight e4 is not a tempo move. So really the most principled is knight c6 or knight d7, one of those. And if g4, then we'll play either bishop e4 or knight e4, right? So loss of a tempo. Loss of a tempo. And now g4. Maybe an interesting move, g4. Yeah, I kind of like it. So what he's saying is, hey, I'm going to develop my bishop here, and if you play f5, you might be insane. You might have no choice. So, queen d5, frisky move. Frisky move. Yeah, that's clever. So white's got a real problem on king b1. And you did him dirty over here. And that's a good one, man. Queen d5 is an exclam. So in that case, probably g4 is a mistake. We don't want to let you, this line where you get to take on a2, that's no bueno. Okay, wait, time for the rant. Jack, we got to do the rant here, buddy. Look at your time. Look at his time. This guy is playing a 30-minute game, as are you, and nobody's thinking bows. You got 20 seconds to move, but still no one's thinking. Some really complicated stuff has gone down. Oh, so same message that I had before. You guys need to slow down. Look at that. And there's some complicated position coming up where suddenly you guys, I know what happened. It was when the guy blundered. When he blundered after e3, then he's like, oh, okay, I got to think about this. Better to think before you blunder, my good friends. You don't have to be a GM to know that. You don't. Okay, so g4 question mark, right? Maybe a simpler move is king b1, right? g4 is still a nice idea. You can do that later. Okay, you can also just play simpleton moves like e3. White, by the way, I feel is better here, the better developed. Okay, g4, queen d5, blunder, not thinking, bam! I want players in the dojo to slay these people who move too fast. That is my dream for them. Thank you. Check to miserable king, doesn't really do much. This one makes me nervous. Why are we doing that? Why not just play king g8? Rook f7. That's making me nervous. Knight c6, good. Why? Because we need to bring our people out. Okay. Okay, good. 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 Easy peasy. Look at this. Now these people are just crispy critters. Ah, that's nice and strong. Queen takes d5. Is it a double exclam? I don't know. I don't know. Okay, so for example, let's talk about this in terms of the computer analysis. I don't know which two moves were inaccuracies. But the first thing I want you to see is that after 1,000, games will start to be decided on players losing time. So it's good to become religious about it. So loss of time, right? And then you came up with, that's your double exclam right there, my friend. That's the double exclam. He's already in a big spot. Because if you get the pawn on a2, you have long-term play against the king. Yes, bishop g2 would be better, but you're doing fine then, right? Okay. So, well done. Congratulations. And, yeah, that was a good graduation. Now, let me just go back one little second here. So that's Jack, and they're working from the UK. Slow it down, Jack. Slow it down, Bows. All right. Next up, we have James Evs. Might be new to the dojo because they got 0 points, but let's just check out what's going on. 1621. Well, they're flying up there. Looks like they're ready to graduate again. Oh, okay, so here's a cool story. So we did this thing, by the way, that I thought was going to be a bigger hit than it was. So my dream, it's a dojo dream, but my dream in particular was I want teams to get their own scoreboard, and then they can train together. You can see who has done what, and to make it not just a personal journey, where it is like most dojos, it's a personal journey, but also the journey of your team, right? So like this dude is in Wales, and gets to play a bunch of games with his team, gets to see then on the scoreboard how the team is doing. Anyway, so we had this great offer. I think it's still available, where the first 3 teams to sign up, we give them 6 months for free, which was pretty good offer, I thought. In any case, we're going to check now the White Knights team and see how they're doing. So this is the clubs, and this is their White Knights. Boom. They got 6 people, and there's James Evs right there. And James Evs has flown up using the Lee Chess Classical, but I don't think it's, well, actually, James Evs, it looks like they've done some stuff here. So we're going to take a look at that in a second. So this is Lauro Monet, who started the club, massive work, and then has really, I think, recruited his bros on his team to be part of the program. And that, like I said, this is just a dream for me personally, because I was on a team as a kid, and I was on a team in the Bundesliga later, and it would have been so cool to see what other people are doing, and then to have the sparring be like, okay, we got to do this sparring with each other, right? And that's a minor problem, but it's kind of hard for people to organize sparring. It's not just an organizational thing, but it's like a little bit of a social thing. Like, oh, I'm going to reach out to somebody that I don't know. We're going to find a time. We're going to do some sparring. It's a little bit awkward for some people. For introverts like myself, it's almost impossible. But for a team, oh, we're going to get together on the club night. We can knock down all kinds of sparring assignments out, Yeah. Thank you, Christian Schultz. So, let's go. Oh, here's their news feed. That's cool. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go back to James Eves here. And we have activity, and it said 0. Well, here it is. No, I don't know why it says 0. Anyways, it looks like usually when someone graduates, there's like a little, you can see that they graduated from 13 to 1400. In any case, they've got a lot of endgame going on. What are they non-dojoing? Some chess media, that's some YouTube videos, okay. And as we saw, the club in UK, in Wales, I didn't know, I guess you call yourself UK, but you probably hate them. Okay, here we go. We got a game. This is James Evs. So it's a matchup against my local club's owner-rated 2000 national rating. Okay, cool. I'm going to mark it as reviewed before I forget. We don't have a time, but that's okay. And I can even make comments here if I want. All right, here we get into it. Bizarre. See, this is where remember where we saw in his list of time distribution that we had the chess media, and then already, Gotham Chess has corrupted the youth over here. Maybe not even the youth. It's obviously a bad move. You do not need to be a genius to see that this is a bad move. E6, B4. Black can do anything. I would say D5 is a good move. E6 probably can't be bad. B6 is a little weird. Okay, but let's play. B6, bishop B2, bishop B7, okay, D3, D6. Now, the first thing, James, that we should say is, I'm certain that there are things to think about here. Certain. But I am happy that finally you're developing your pieces. If you hadn't been corrupted by Gotham Chess, you would have just done this naturally. Castles. And now it's kind of a problem to know what to do. It's about an equal position, something like that. And we want to learn how to play these positions, right? Very difficult to learn how to play these. And I'm not certain exactly what to do either, but I do know that that's not it, because the knight has no future being there because it's dominated by this pawn. So, what to do? Well, let's talk about it a little bit. We got kind of a scrunch over here. right? So it is nice. One nice thing about knight b3 is at least you're kind of getting out of the way of that. It would be nice if the queen somehow found some squares, right? So the first move that comes to mind is honestly c4. That's a move. And then we can bring our queen out. Part of developing is bringing our queen out. I like it less, but we could think about something like that. This tangle has to be figured, right? Okay, let's look. Knight b3, rook c1. It looks like you're playing c4, but not playing it. And here, black could really consider c4 now. Would be a pain. And they could have done it, honestly, here too. Here, though, they can't push it all the way down into your throat, whereas here, they could, right? And so if you, I guess you got to take, and then they take your nice center pawn, and they're doing great. Okay, c8. Black hasn't figured it out yet that c4 is an option. Okay, now I guess it's no longer an option. Okay, he's just tanking. Bishop f3, I don't like it. But notice, it's hard. It's hard for you to now know what to do. And then you say, I feel like this trade was necessary. And let's talk about your pieces. At the moment you've got one good piece. And you worked so hard to get this piece active. But the second you take on e5, you are liberating this guy, and you've killed your best piece. Yeah. So better would be bishop e2. No one knew what you put on the bishop f3 anyway. You know, if you want to get him out of the way, you could have gone this way too. So definitely not necessary. And then here you're losing a tempo. After that trade, his dark square bishop has become more active and was threatening to take on b4, so I decided to push to defend it. Okay. Now, I just want you to see, besides this knight now, all of your pieces are pretty bad. This knight at least has a joyous knight c4 square that he can look forward to. And one piece of advice I have is when the pawn structure shifts, that's the time to reflect on what's going on, right? What's going on in the position. Yeah. So, black has the two bishops and wants to open the position. That can't be bad. That's a little weird. Where's he going? He wants to go to d6. And then that, is he blundering the pawn? No, he's not. So actually, I take it back. Knight d6, good move. So you needed to take this thing. And then however he recaptures to play knight d2. So just to be clear, this is a maneuvering game that you have here. We need to try to improve this bishop. It's bad. He needs to find ways to open the position. So in general, moves like a6 are probably a good idea. At some point, we do want to improve this knight. But notice something. Both of your knights want to be on c4. So actually, I don't want to trade one of them off, if that makes sense. Because the other one is just going to sit on c4. You got one good piece, and that'll be that knight on c4. But the other one, since the other one can go there, I don't want to bring it. I don't want to help him out. And now this is definitely a mistake because now his knight is active. And he's got a couple of good moves. Let's see what he does. Boom. Now, why is this superficial? Because he fixes your knight on b3. Boom. It does have some advantages. I'm hoping you played a4 here. e5. Well, maybe you could do it, actually. Maybe you could do this. He gets kind of frisky with b5. And rook b1 is indeed the question about b5. That's the question that needs answering. So this is hanging a pawn, right? I saw bishop takes, pawn takes, rook takes, and thought the giving of the pawn would allow me to create some play. I also felt it is better to lose the e-pawn than the a-pawn. And Right. What you should analyze too is rook b1 here, just to say to yourself, well, what is actually going on? Because it's not super simple here for black. And as far as I can tell, you're not actually losing a pawn. So b5 like is a tactical move where if it doesn't work, it really doesn't work. For example, a6 and we play a4. Not so easy for the person, for the dude, as they say. Yeah, that would be great to give a variation on that. And now this I would evaluate as probably lost, but you could also, some people might say just clearly worse. I don't know what that does. Not sure about that move either. Okay. Now see, look, so indecision on, with your opponent. Okay. Well, now we're toast. Did b4 make sense to me? Not so much. Yeah, we definitely didn't want to take that thing. Okay, now, a common feature of games at the dojo at this level is that when we get to this point, we don't see too much annotations. So for example, here you are technically lost, but black has to play it precisely, right? So we would want a little bit more annotations here. Yeah. G6 would now be a draw. Okay, good. So one interesting thing, I should have stayed on the back rank. So here, if you analyze it, it's just to your great benefit. What you're trying to do is you're trying to prevent him from playing G6. That's why you want to touch this coconut, right? So a really interesting question for me as well is like on rook f8, would there be a way for black to make progress? And it might be e4. And if it's e4, then we can do another question. We can also ask this one. And then I assume g6. But the curious thing is we don't have to actually, let's say, respond too quickly anyways. You know, we could play maybe king e4 or something like that. We don't have to take on g6. Okay, so rook e6, he gets out. He pushes you around. I'm not convinced by rook d7. He finally gets to this. Okay. Oh, rook h7, baby. Let's go. Now it's the critical question. You are probably toast, but black is pushing their luck a little bit. Boom, 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 boom. Good move. Okay. Yeah, we're toast. Yep. Okay. So that was a game where what I want to stress about it is my sense is this is the first time you've done a annotation, right? So at least it's the first one in the database for you, right? And this is a good annotation, especially for a first time. And what I want to stress is there's a couple phases of the game you can get really good at just by doing annotations. So here we have this maneuvering phase. We have, whole sections of moves where you didn't say anything. Interesting things were happening. Interesting things were happening. Now, also, what would be helpful for me and you is if you write in the times. You can write in the times, on your score sheet, over the board game, and then put them in when you do the PGN. That'll help you identify, like, was your opponent being superficial? You're taking too long? Those kinds of questions. Okay, so let's go back. And next up, we have the Mad Barber. I like that name. Matt Barber said, I was already over the graduation before my last game, but since I still have a provisional rating, I decided to wait and play some other games before graduating. Since this is my first graduation, I will write some of my overall thoughts about the program. The main reason I joined was for access to the plus minus equal concept. Just that is more than worth the price. All the material and this beautiful site is an added bonus. The program made me rediscover the pleasure of going through my own games without the engine, as I was doing 10 plus years when I played OTB. As far as studying goes, my main focus has been the endgame, since I've always felt that is the most crucial part of the game where everything is decided. And also, I've always felt uncomfortable going into endgames without a sizable advantage. I found a training partner for that in the Discord, and we went through Selman's book up to the material of the 16-1700 cohort. Overall, most of the material for this cohort, the endgame algos, the tactical benchmarks, Saruman's strategy book, felt a bit too easy for my level, which is still unknown to me since I'm still in the de-rusting phase. I like that, de-rusting. So I'm happy to graduate to find some more challenging material. Okay, that was a good synopsis. Let's go over here. And, okay, cool, from Italy. Great. So we'll follow the Mad Barber. They have truly, gone up quite a bit. And let's see if there's an Italian club they belong to. Bring your own pizza. Not too many. Not too many. We need some more Italians up in here. So, pizza, by the way, it seems like it's an Italian thing, but honestly, I think the historical record shows that it was us who really pushed it. Oh, they're not going to like to hear that. Why do you even have to bring that up, Kraai? You shouldn't have said anything about it. Okay. I almost went on a small food rant. No, Kraai, this is not the time. This is not the time. All right, so we want to go back and see how they did it. And so 57 hours of work, good. And that's a great macro distribution. When I think about the training plan at 13-14, interesting question, do I feel some of it's too easy? I don't know. There's some hard stuff in there, And we are going to shake it up a little bit for 3.0 as well. So, for example, middle game strategy. So he felt that was maybe a little too easy. That's a great book. That's not an easy book. Not an easy game to memorize, and so on. Maybe I want to click on the end game too, just because they said they did so much of it. So we got the Silman. I'll go 3, I'll go 4, I'll go 5. Okay, I like this. I'll go 6, and then the algos, of course, will be much harder in the next cohort. They'll be a little harder. Everything gets a little harder. Also, the people you spar against are going to be a little stronger, right? Okay, so 13 games, really well done. And this game was played and annotated just a couple of days ago. Let's check a look. Classical game with a shorter 45-30. Okay, good. Let's just look at this beautiful clock. Oh my God. So, it's white. So, Mad Barber, let's just say we've talked a little bit about this before. We're playing online and these people don't have the focus to actually think. So, your opponent played this game as if it were a blitz game, right? You did not. We're going to hope, too, that you're winning by around here, because here you also started moving very quickly. Mark the game review before I forget. Okay, so let's get into it. Fine. It's a little weird, but I'm not going to say anything. Fine. Yeah, bishop b4 has its own drawbacks. I think bishop e7 is totally fine. Okay, good. And now castles. Now, in terms of it being a thing, white can do all kinds of stuff in this position. And certainly castles makes some sense. It's very frisky. Very frisky. It's probably playable. Now let's just talk about Federico the F-pawn for a second. So when you play this in almost any scenario, remember that the dream is for the rook to achieve some kind of activity through the pawn and the bishop not to be blocked by the pawn. And it's hard. At this moment, I'm not clear exactly how it's going to go down. And this is a hard position to know exactly what to do. So just to stress, when you play unconventionally, you will run up pretty quickly into like questions of like, oh my God, what am I supposed to do, right? And I don't know. It's hard to because this weakness. So for example, on knight d7, I'm maybe a little worried about knight g5. I don't know if that works, but that'd be a worry. If I play b6, bishop b7, I'm again worried about this kind of stuff. Ideally, though, I do want to sink my knight there. Obviously, I can't do it yet, or at least I don't think so. So you play knight c6, and the real question mark here would be, well, what would happen on d5? You know, what would happen? I think it might be, I think maybe you could say check to the queen, and then, you know, hit him with this kind of thing. They wasted tempo, importante, and now we need a good move. You play queen e8, and maybe that's fine. I would be interested in the move knight e4. Okay, does it work? I don't know, but I'll show you kind of the madness of what I'm thinking here. Knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, pawn takes. Now, they got a hard choice. If they play, the problem is this bishop. Remember what I said about Federico the f-pawn and the rook? So, you know, do they open my bishop? That's the only way they're not going to lose a pawn. And then how do we feel about this position? Well, I kind of like black. Now, the basic move here would be to play bishop f5. Obviously, white is poorly developed, and we could dream about things like knight a5, c4 to b3. So definitely full compensation. I bring it up because this is the kind of explosion that we want to do both in your opening, because we want to really focus. Like, remember, when we play f5, we need to liberate those dudes. And also, when they lose time, and they will, they will lose time. Your opponent, by the way, is he thinking, no, just immediately play it, come on. When they lose time, that's when we want to encourage ourselves to be like, wait a second. Let's think for a second and see if we can punish them. This move, I yell at a lot of people for studying openings, right? You've heard it before. This move feels dogmatic in the sense that I've sensed that you've seen this in some position and are just kind of playing it by rote. Especially if the king's over here, it's going to make a lot of sense. I would now be especially worried about d5. I don't know, so I need at least a variation, because where's my knight going to go? I'm not sure. e3, a6, weird. A old-time move that's even weirder, it's even weirder, is bishop d8. This is something Tal came up with back in the day, and it looks obscene, but the idea is to force e5 sooner rather than later. And what is it about? Like I said, it's a dream of Federico. We want to open these guys up. It's about our pieces, fixing our pieces. So I think maybe you're doing that because you're afraid of knight b5. Notice that bishop d8, as weird as it is, it does, you know, prevent knight b5, c7 stuff. So a6 feels planless. Apparently, though, you're ready to go. ready to hurt somebody. H4, frisky. H3, G4 is another one. At this point, I felt that the plan I was going for was a bit too slow, and I saw the possibility to gain space in the center with knight G4, E5. Maybe this was also a bit misguided. Opening lines in the center should favor the one with more development. That is not black in the situation. Notice, though, what happened in the last three moves. 1 tempo, 2 tempo, 3 tempi. Those were all not necessarily developing moves, right? When we're back here, ready to blast with knight E4, well, you're not down in time here, right? Okay, so H4, and you get frisky now with knight G4. And it might be fine. At the minimum, it is annoying for white because they've got to deal with the F2 square. And you go E5. Okay, things are heating up. Let's see how they play. Snip. I think that's the best move. Notice that if they don't snip and play like D5, then their D5 square is lost to the knight. You move the knight somewhere, and then this is a rock, right? That's a rock. So pop, pop, and now white needs a good move. Let's see what they do. That's a poor move. And you talk about knight D5. Good. I think knight D5 has to be the move. All right. Let's see what you do. It's an important little momentito here. You go back. He misplaced his knight for no reason. I think I'm mostly in concord with what you're saying there. Good. F4, poor move. Blocking his dark square bishop. Now I felt like I have to be better. Good note. Good notes. Always repeat. Yeah. So, locking it in. Good. Bishop F2. Weird. He does this. And that's pretty frisky. B5 is at the minimum an interesting move. Bishop E6, I think I might know where you're coming from. One cool thing about this Bishop E6 move is if he takes on C7, which I imagine he's going to do, or at least that would be the only move I'm afraid of, his other three minors are so bad that what we're saying is, well, we're sacking this pawn, but in return, I'm getting rid of his one good piece. You know, one good piece. I'm sorry, buddy. You're never coming out. It's still pretty hot, though, and I have some ideas for how white could play it. Let's see what he does. Okay. Boom. Rook FC8 definitely feels more natural because you want to do your B5 thing. Now, the danger here for us, I think, is that our light squares are a little bit raw, if I'm allowed to use that language. King B1, probably a waste of time. Now, the big questions I have are like, can he set up for G4? He must set up, I think, for G4. It's a must. It's not a kind of sort of, it's a must. Because these pieces don't do anything unless this G4 business gets rolling. So, it's tough, you know. If Rook G1, I think you might shut it all the way down and say it's never happening. Maybe G4, but then we take, and there's some questions here. Maybe that's an exclam, though. See, he needs to get this party started before you waste him. Great rule of thumb, when there's an attack on opposite wings, the side with the initiative is going to be the one who starts punching first and therefore is going to win. Or rather, the way you could say it is, when there's an attack on opposite wings, the value of the initiative goes up. Value of initiative is always there. And what do we mean by value? I mean, we're ready to sacrifice stuff more than we would normally be just for the initiative. So King B1. Let's see how you roll him. I'm hoping for B5. King H8. And then you're talking about B5. I think you got to play B5. Bishop E1. Not, okay, let's just say, not horrendous. They're trying to fix their bishop. But without that knight, buddy, where's it? If you don't play G4, Baus, where's the knight gonna go? And then he blunders, CB5. Boom. And this guy's just not thinking at all. Welcome to the dojo. Welcome to the dojo, buddy. That's what you get for moving too fast, buddy. Boom, 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 boom. Oh, it's easy now. Thank you. Finally, isn't it kind of fun? It's like only in the act of desperation do they think, oh, my knight on h2, man. Maybe I should do something with that bad boy. Good move. Good move. Welcome to the dojo. Yeah. So one of the things that we should say about this applies to a lot of the other games we were looking at today, is especially if you were playing online, and by the way, I definitely encourage you to play some OTB, but especially online, you are going to come across this kind of player often who does not understand that thinking is part of the game. When they signed up for their chess club or wherever, they were just like, it's a thinking game? It's about thinking? It's about thinking, Bows. You got to think. And this dude didn't think at all. Oh my God, look at this. Look, he ended the game with just a touch less time. At one point, though, for a long period of the game, that dude had more time than he began with. So, I like this one from Quad. I never hesitate to put a System 1 thinker on his back. Nice, dude. Okay, I'm going to take a quick pause, and I'm going to be right back.
Welcome to the dojo. Check out Joe, he's a Reddit bro, likes to edit posts, and he starts to gloat when he gets the most of votes or likes. Yeah, he's really hyped, really psyched, cause the crowd is really tight and the work is really light. His training plan is the first thing your eyes see, cause he's got more follows than my boy Eric Dicey. Opinions on Magnus, Hans, and Karyakin, who cheated who, which engine did he hacking. He got blocked by Short, ignored by Dvorak, but he can't be wrong, he scored a like from Truong. He's got lightning attacks on GM blunders and gaffes, true not over the board, it's only the other chat. Still his 7-year plan ensures the last laugh. Distractions detract from any actual actions. Excuses are useless, he rues his inaction. Awaits satisfaction, the status of Magnus. He bought 50 books and opened up 10. Fools ought to read Psalms, not my system. He's got 30 alt accounts on every site around. Chessable courses keep looking cheaper by the pound. He got 22 databases and 36 engines, 25 chess sets, and a massive clock collection. He bought merch from Gotham, Bra and Naka, but his game history looked like some chess copy pasta. A GM coach that he don't listen to, and if you think it is, then yes, my friend, yes, this is you. But that all changed one bright sunny day when a friend said, hey, don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I gave up on the easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. Sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. Don't you know, welcome to the dojo, it's good to grow. Welcome to the dojo, I stepped away from easy. Sweatwork's what we need, G. If sweatwork's what I believe, ratings what I'll receive. So Joe got into the business, stopped the app sickness, daily practices rhythm, he even upped his fitness. He found sparring cathartic, postmortems charming. With the plus equal minus, he was armed for elo farming. With notepad and pen, he built up calluses, escape rating paralysis with lengthy game analysis.
Okay, we are back. And that was the Mad Barber. Next up, we have Travi LKP. I'm graduating very quickly, only due to the constant grind on ChessCom. I still feel like I have a lot to learn from the training plans offered through the dojo, and my true rating will soon be established once I've hit a plateau. Well, probably true. Additionally, I do believe that my understanding of chess is getting a lot better, and I am developing consistent lines with my games as I continue to grow. I very much look forward to the longer time control games played against my fellow cohort members and really admire the culture that has evolved from this club. Okay, great. One cool thing actually we should say is right around here, this is where you can start thinking about openings. And what I mean by that is not that you want to really be trying to memorize a bunch of stuff, but that you play a couple openings and really try to understand some of the nuances, ideas behind those openings. And honestly, the best way to do it is by studying your games. You will encounter ideas, and you'll be like, okay, I'm getting used to this structure, or I have a sense of what's going on here. Kind of like what we saw in the last Dutch game, right? Okay, so let's click. And huge gains, 1542. It happened very quickly. Clubs, down under. Okay, cool. Activity, and we're going to back it up one. And it looks like they might not have any games, like they just might be flying through here. And we have some games. We got one. This was, maybe I might have seen it before because he's been graduating so fast. First classical, good. Also my first time annotating. Yeah, so this is, wait a second, let's just say here, 1400. Right, so I probably looked at this, but let's just quickly look. Actually, I'll mark this as reviewed. That's a good, that's one of the reasons I need to mark it as reviewed, so I have a memory of it. Okay. So D6, I went for the more aggressive line. This looks wrong to me. Maybe there's some part of it that I don't understand. I think Queen D2 looks better. So let's just see what he wants on DE5. Queen D1, Rook D1, and then he talks about Knight G4, Knight D5. Correct. That is the drama there. Knight FD7. And then my big question would be Knight D5, correct? And then we're getting wasted over here. Also, this isn't it, because we're just taking the knight. Okay, so I might have to do a take back in my original take on this position. That DE, if DE is a good thing for white, then I can't talk trash about it. And I can't say nothing. Okay. All right, let's look. Knight H5, Queen D2. Yeah, I don't like this. I don't like Queen D2. So if that's the case, then this is a bad move, this E5. In general, we don't want to commit E5 unless we are like winning something, right? So why is it bad? Why is this position not great for white? Because you are going to try to mate black, right? But once they have this unopposed bishop, it's really hard to get at him. Like, how are you ever going to get at the dark squares? Right? Okay, so also because they have less space, it's a cool thing that they got to trade a piece. Boom. And now this move, maybe. Does it inspire confidence? Not really. I think Knight C6 is kind of maybe the first thing I'd be looking at. Okay, but let's look. C6, Knight F3, D5. Okay, let's say this actually helps from thinking about the last game. When we have opposite sides castling, the initiative is paramount. Again, the initiative is always important, but with opposite sides castling, it's more important. So D5 doesn't feel great. If you wanted to play D5, he could have done it last move. You know, there was nothing doing there, right? And so there's really interesting questions, I think, about B5. Now, it's not even close to done here, but the issue will be that can we bring this knight to bear in some fruitful way? I don't know. I just know, the only thing I know for sure is white cannot slow play this. Okay, we've got attack on opposite wings, and it's time to roll. H4, H5. Okay. Now King B1. Now definitely Bishop G4. The reason we want bishop g4 is this is our bad bishop, and we simply plant that there, and at some point soon we hack that thing, and then if we need to, we can play e6, knight d7, and then break for c5. So a5 is frisky, and the problem actually now for white is white needs a plan, and then a4. Is it principled? In general, we don't want to move pawns on our weak side, right? We don't want to move pawns on our weak side. Now, how to play this position as white? What would I want you to do? One thing I want you to see is that this knight isn't working, and we need to come up with a way to get at the black position. Just thinking for a second here. The most brutalistic approach is to play knight g5, intending bishop e2 and g4. Right? That's the most brutal. It will probably force black to play f6, and then we claim simply that that was a concession when they play f6, and it is. Is it hairy? Oh, but it's going to be hairy anyway. So a4, and black is playing, I would call this passive, because black is saying to themselves, oh, I got to go trade a queen off. Again, what should they do? Bishop g4. And at some point, sack the pawn. As I said before, the value of the initiative is always important, but it's more important when we have opposite sides castling. And so, while I want you to play g4, if you have to sack the pawn to get it open, then we want to sack the pawn to get it open. We got to go. Queen d7. And now they do this, which is a little bit too much. One thing I want you to see about this, okay? I did a bunch of videos at the beginning of the dojo, and they were like how to make 800, how to make 900, how to make 1100, 1200. And one of the things that you can begin to feel here is that your opponents don't, like, okay, let me put it this way. 0 to 1,000, it's all about people hanging pieces. After that, it's really a lot about time. And then after that, time was still important. Like black has lost a lot of time, and you've lost some time too. But you need to start developing a sensitivity to bad pieces. So, for example, the last several moves, this knight has been pissed. It's like, well, what am I supposed to do? How do I get into the game, Bows? How do I do it? Okay, because it's dominated by this pawn. And one reason that players don't get good at recognizing that the knight needs to be improved is because their opponents will often improve the knight for them, right? So here, boom, oh no, the knight who was a chump is now a beast. Oh no. So I want to stress this is not simply a tactical miss by your opponent. It's very strategic in the sense that he's not aware, thinking about, with sensitivity to the good pieces and the bad pieces. Good move. Thank you very much. I think he's losing the pawn anyway, but okay. Good. Blunder. Bam. Game over. Good. Okay. All right. It's time to resign, but this guy finally did it. Okay, good. So, that was really cool, and that was Travi. And as Travi said, maybe... Oh, my God, Travi. Oh, my God, Travi. I spent more time talking about that game than either of you spent on it. You know, look at this thing. Look at this thing. There were important decisions being made, my friends. Oh, God. No one's thinking at all. No one's thinking. Look at all these moves that were so important. They're just treating it like a blitz game. Oh man. Well, we've seen it before. You should really say to yourself, Kraai he's a jerk. It's true, he's a jerk, but he's not singling you out in the sense that you're doing something that other people aren't doing. No, we see this all the time, and it's in many ways it's a thing that you can fix that has nothing to do with your chess ability. Nothing. Right? If you can just slow down, you will make better moves. That's all there is to say about it. There's some, like, I want to say, in this position, I think both players, it's time to think. Someone's getting mated this game, by the way. Someone's getting mated, and you need to find clever ways to get at the king. And I suggested, I think, bishop e2 and knight g5 here, or knight g5 immediately to avoid bishop g4. But that's just one idea. That's just one idea. Okay, so there it is. Slow it down. Slow it down. All that other stuff I said about the positional and the shmamissional, secondary to slowing it down. And as we saw in the other cohorts, these players are going to be moving fast when you play online. Another reason to, play a little bit of over the board. Okay, great. Next up, we have Yao, who has graduated several times. And I just want to say, graduating up this far is not easy. Okay, I really want to stress that. I also know that Yao has done some great, I might be pronouncing the name wrong, has done some great annotations. I'm sure we're going to look at another one of those today. It is very difficult to get to here if you're from where he started. We'll see where he started. Let's say 1600 or something with 3 graduations. Very difficult, and you can see the work it's taking. So this is very laudable. Let's read. Analyzing games deeply did teach me a lot about certain positions, although I do struggle to find the motivation to do them as they take up a lot of time, and I get sucked into very deep analysis. The book recommendations are really useful as you do not waste time searching for the perfect resource. As for what could be improved, I would like the option to transfer a task from a previous cohort to a higher cohort as I find myself graduating, while I haven't finished the books from the previous cohort. I think, so like for example, I think what he means is if I'm working on a book that's not in the next cohort, but I want to bring it in, maybe something like that. This is also just useful for people who, for example, are 2,000 in the endgame and 1,500 in tactics. The opening part of the dojo has improved, but still could be improved, with a function that allows you to create a sort of to-do list of openings which you can check off. For example, with response against 1e4, you have, okay, I see what you're saying. These opening sub-goals have their own sub-goals. This helps create a clear progress system where you do not have the problem of finishing the 15-hour mark, but still having to do many parts of your opening. Okay, that's really good. I'll put this on my list to talk to the other people about. Opening sub-goals, I like it. And let's call it goal transfer. So I'll put that in. This is Yao Q. We're doing so much for Dojo 3.0, man. Oh, and a lot of it, is technical. Like the stuff that I was asking for is just more work for Jack, dude. Yeah, it is a lot of work for poor Jack. Okay, so let's click on Yao. And Yao got a little bit of a FIDE boost, like everybody else did. Notice, as we go up the cohorts, we start running into people who are using their OTB. Stronger players are playing OTB. If you are lower rated and are wondering about OTB, wondering about what it would mean, how hard it is, yes, it's harder. It's harder to organize. There's a time investment in it that's much bigger, but it is the path, especially once you get to where Yao is here. Okay, so Nassis then hasn't even played classical, Elite Chess Classical in forever. Let's click around a little bit. Clubs, no clubs. Activity, oh, look at that, genius. And we're going to go back one. So dude did 159 hours, most of it games and analysis. So that's great. We got some tactics. Good. I like it. And we got some endgame. Good. We got some middle games and strategy. Good. That's great. Okay, and actually, let's just look training plan. We'll go back one and see how much of it they did. So you can see, by the way, he did a bunch of work and wasn't even close to finishing it. Again, the idea of the program is if you're really at a plateau, which apparently Yao is not, we're saying that if you finish everything, you know, within a reasonable amount of time, like if you take 10 years to do it, it's probably not going to work because you'll be forgetting a bunch in that time. But if you do it, you will make it then to the next level, 98% of the time, something like that. Okay, so as I mentioned, Yao has great annotations. Let's check one out. So, okay, great. I'm going to mark it as review before I forget. And my friends, look at the difference. We are now dealing with some stronger players, and you can see, they thought, and then the tank began. And Joaquin was down to, I should be calling Joaquin instead of Yao, you jerk. You jerk, Jesse. I was down pretty quickly. So this is 90 plus 15. And it looks like we're actually in Holland. We're in Holland, yeah. Okay, so knight f3, g3. d4. Yeah, this is a little bit inaccurate, as I understand it anyway. cd, knight d4, e5. And you call this inaccurate. I'd be hard-pressed to call this inaccurate. Let's see what you say. I thought it was best to trade off to an endgame. I remember a game by Ulf Andersson in a Neo Grunfeld with the same kind of endgame. I vaguely remember that this endgame is slightly better for black, and this seemed true to me during the game, since e5, c6 are more useful than g3. Pawn on c6 restricts the knight on c3, and e5 is central. I was too focused on this endgame that I rejected g6 too quickly and didn't even consider knight f6. Well, this could have led to a better version. e5, it has got to be correct. If you play knight f6 or g6, then white has the option of playing c4 or e4 to make good on their problem, which is now when you hit him with e5, the issue is, hey buddy, why are don't you have to wonder about this? Yeah, that's my understanding. So I think e5 has got to be correct. He takes, and you go to the endgame. Good. I love your endgame. I think this is beautiful. Great. And let's think about, let's see how white plays it. But this is a big moment for white. Now, let's do a little compare and contrast. So just keep this in mind, this position. Okay, Kraai, think about it for just a second. So knight f6, c4, g6, knight c3, d5, takes, takes, e4, knight takes, pawn takes, queen takes, king takes. Okay, right? So the same position, except the knight is on f3. So one of this position, by the way, I've played many times as white. It's very interesting. There's a variety of plans here for black. Okay, variety of plans for black. Okay, so let's get into your end game. I think you're doing great. So my feeling was that this was not good, but during the game, it actually didn't seem that bad to me. White wants to develop the light square bishop to c4 and stop black's f5. Good. Also cool is that you're recognizing that bishop g2 is a chump move. The position I just showed, by the way, where the knight is on f6, right? The best move is, you kind of have, in a way you have to know, but it's interesting. You play f3 followed by e4 to dominate the knight. So one of the interesting questions for me, for you in this game is, when your knight is not on f6, do we have other creative ways of doing other things with it? Right? Okay, so there's loads of other moves here for white. And the key thing to see is your king is dreaming of c7, okay? And on that square, it's going to be great. So white should dream of messing with you somehow when your king gets there, right? So a plan like knight d4, c4 followed by f4, something like that, or just f4 immediately, are some of the things I think that white could consider doing here. Okay, e4. Now, if you played knight f6 here, you would enable f3. So here's an interesting question of how you should play. I think bishop e6 is good. I think bishop c5 is good. Let's see what you do. Fine. Okay. And now knight f6, and like I said, maybe not, but it really can't be that bad. Quite logical. You say f3, good move. Knight d7, perfect. Perfect. Yeah, you're doing great. You're doing great. You have yourself a classical endgame. Good. So notice, the knight on c3 would be terrible, so knight d2 is correct. So you talk about maybe bishop b4, maybe. I love bishop c5. Why? Because that's their good bishop. Let's get rid of it, Bows. Let's get rid of it. a4, kind of weird. By the way, maybe you can call me demented, okay? But I find these positions really fascinating, Yeah. And ultimately, some people would be like, this is dumb, Jesse. This is just equal. Well, it probably is equal, but first of all, we're black, so we're happy with equality. Second of all, both players will now make mistakes, and we will have our chances, and they might have their chances too. One of the things my coach is on me about is he's always like, Jesse, why do you always have to do something? And so what is a4? A4 is like trying to do something. You sure you want to do something here? Is it really something you want to do to be playing this move? I don't think so. I don't think so. So more natural would be something like castling long, bishop c4, some kind of move like that. I think bishop c4 is probably technically the best move. And now a5 makes sense. Then the a pawn will have to be babysitted. And nota bene, when we put our king here, it's a powerful piece. We're covering nice squares. So f6, definitely slow. Okay, king c7, a little frisky, and allowing some complications with his b4. Now, is b4 a good move? I don't know. I don't know. Notice that white isn't being sensitive to their poor king. Looks good to me. Now you're talking about knight d7. He plays c3. Another move that I want us to consider here is, how do we feel about this position? A little hot, right? Now, do I know what's happening here? I don't. But I don't think you can be worse. Maybe white's best is here, here, here. It's hot. I don't think you're worse, though. You can do maybe here, here, here. Yeah, you're the one that's active. You're the one that's active. So I think maybe you missed that opportunity with knight a4. Yes, the guy could do this, but here you have a number of interesting options. Knight b6, knight b2, knight c3, or just, of course, fe. Okay, so knight e6, c3. Good move. Here I started to realize that white actually has quite a nice position, and I don't have a good pawn push on the queen side. Here I started to think for a long time and then played a move that I immediately regretted. White has more space in the plan to continue development and strangle black to death. Okay, before we start talking about death, okay? Before we start talking about your death, let us simply note that white isn't doing anything at the moment. Does a5 look imposing or something? Maybe a little bit. But is he doing anything? Oh, not really. So you have a number of moves here which make sense. Your knight, it's true, your knight needs a job, right? Needs a job. Let's first consider the things you talk about. You talk about rook hd8, b6, and yada yada. To me, the move is, if I was playing a blitz game anyway, the move I would definitely consider is h5. And put it on h4, and I try to tickle him, and I say bows. If you let me play h4, or if you ever move that g-pawn, then I'm going to do this. Now, could the guy play h4 and renew the question back to me? Yeah, they could. They could. And am I entirely certain what's going on? No, I'm not. But I'm not worse. I'm not worse in this position. I'm doing fine. Yeah. And there's a variety of ways that I can dream about improving my pieces. One basic way is to say, hey, let's roll. Now, do I believe in this? I don't know yet. I'm just saying this is one option. And, you know, I'm going to play g5 next. There's questions involved. Okay, this one is wrong, and I want to stress, yeah, let's call it very wrong. And you are now doing the same thing that your opponent was like. He was like, I got to do something. When we say that, I mean, boss, you should have at least fixed your white. You should have at least fixed your king before you did all this stuff. This, though, is just tragic in the sense that you are liberating this rook. It's like it wasn't clear that this a4 stuff was so cool, and now it really is clear. And now you're in trouble. Probably a good move. King e2. Rook ac8. Okay. And now I definitely need you to play knight c7. Knight c7. I thought it was an idea too, but this is temporarily very passive. Well, hold on, though. If he goes back, what do we mean? If he goes back, we're just going to sit here. We're just going to sit here. We'd be so happy if they just go back. Yeah. The knight is doing a job here. It's keeping that knight out of d5 that we invited into our coconut territory. We don't want any part of that, man. Yeah. And you have a variety of moves here. This looks good. You know, we're doing fine. We always have this move if we need it. So here we go. You can still play knight c7. Rook d7, a little frisky. Boom. It's getting nervous. Rook c6. I feel like you needed to get that knight out of d5 pronto. He's too scary. And now white does this. We need to play knight c7. We cannot be having that knight hanging out all over our coconuts. h5. Rook hd1. So from here on, it's just a case of dude remembering, I guess, because the score sheet might have been corrupted or whatever we want to say. Yeah. Now it's dangerous. You still might be fine, but it's dangerous because that post on d5 is so strong for him. So you finally do it, good, and dude backs it up. I don't think that's not at least the thing I was scared of. Now, is there something scary? Maybe. Well, knight takes c7 would be the question. That, I don't think that's it. And now, yeah, you've been obsessed with this knight a8 move. Yeah, why don't we just play rook d6? And now we get to see if I can do some Dutch. Okay, so let's see if Kraai can do some Dutch. My last name is Dutch, so I have it in me, boss. Knight e6. King c6, also fine, but let's read what you write. Oh, man, this one's hard for me, man. So I know this is with a readily something's endgame where white doesn't have a lot of heft. Okay, more natural. I can't do it, man. That's too hard. I tried, though. I really tried. So knight a8. He shouldn't exchange rooks, but you're about to play king c7 and over, right? Oh, and that knight f5 is a nice variation. Good. So this whole thing with the knight a8 pirouette was a little much, right? And then you're absolutely right. Knight f5 looks good. It's just a real pain in the you-know-what. So here, and if rook c7, then we're saying this, and it looks poor. No doubt about it. Okay. And notice, oh my God, of course we want, if you imagine it now, would we want to trade rooks? Yeah, get that off of there, buddy. So he does this. That wasn't it. Good move. That wasn't it. That was it. Good. And now g4. I do have one interesting problem for you here. Now, knight e7 is probably fine. You might not have any choice anyway. But is the pawn endgame toast for you here? There's reason to think that it is. So, for example, I think you got to take it, right? Snip, king c6, king e4. And the problem is, white's going to play g4. Let's just look. I'm not sure if it's lost. I just know it's unpleasant. And yeah, it's unpleasant. It's unpleasant. Now, I think if you take it, you will definitely be toast. I think. Not 100%, but it looks real bad because they will eventually get an outside passer. It's close, man. It's close. I just want to say this one's real close to be really interesting to spend some time here. Okay, so g4, g6, gh. Yeah, there's all kinds of ways that white can press here still. Okay. Interesting. Not sure I get that one. Here I'm not sure what I played. Okay, so this is a little bit speculative. Might have happened, might have not. It was deep time pressure as we saw over here. So Joaquin, that was good, man. That was good. And watch your time. Yeah. I think one of the things to say about this that's really kind of cool is this position that you get is here. I think when you're criticizing your opening moves, you're like, I'm uncomfortable with this endgame. And what you could see is like, well, you can get good at this kind of endgame. You'll get other kinds of endgames like it. So it's a great learning experience to get a game like this. And you didn't have to go for the endgame. There was other ways for you to play the position, of course, as well. But think this is totally solid and fine and a great learning experience for you as well. And like I said, it's a sister position to this one here, which the ancients played many, many times. I played it myself as well. Okay, white tried and tried to prove an advantage here. And what is the, and actually shows a little bit about your game. The best move here for black, as I said, boom. Well, it was not the first thing maybe to cross your mind, but we need to kill this knight, and we need to prevent bishop f4 in this business. Okay, so great. Let's move on. And now we have our final. By the way, in about 40 minutes, we're gonna do the candidate show, and let's just celebrate Cross Online, who is in the chat as well. This is a very tough graduation to go from 2,000 to 2,100. Very, very strong. Okay, that takes a lot of work. Let's read what Cross says, who's also in the chat. By the way, Cross, I'm about to click on your games. If you want me to look at one in particular, let me know. I joined and instantly fell in love with the community. It is refreshing to have a group of people all trying to hone their skills in their chosen craft. Despite doing little of the dojo work, I mainly do the non-dojo. Come on, Cross Online, buddy! The algorithm said for me to graduate. I use my Lee chess due to my ChessCom mainly used for teaching and my OTB being inactive for over 15 years. Okay, so let's click over here. Boom. So 21, 24, let's just click over. USCF hasn't been going on for a while. So back in the day, 15 years ago, Cross Online had a expert rating. And in terms of, let's call it goals or whatever you want to call it, right? 2,200 is definitely a dream. Oh, wow. Traumatic brain injury. I can no longer concentrate. I have a 24/7 migraine for several decades. Jesus. Okay, that's rough, man. You know, one of the cool things, well, that's not a cool thing, a great story, we got this kid I met at the Denver Open years ago, and then I got to be friends with his family, and oh, dude, he had a hemispherectomy. He kept on having seizures and stuff, and had multiple things going on with the kid, man. And he made it to 2,200. Amazing, right? Amazing. Him and his brother are there active in the Denver. I haven't talked to him in years. That's because I haven't been back to Denver. But it was just an amazing story where if you imagine like getting a hemispherectomy and you know you're still having seizures and it's just a massive mess. How could you do it, right? And kid did it, man. Made 2,200. So I thought of him because you're on the dream for 2,200 as well. That case, you know, him having the seizures and stuff really taught me a lot. Just thinking about it taught me a lot about the brain, and then I read about it some. And I feel like in my lifetime, right, we've come to understand so much more about the brain and the way it works and the way it's, you know, the best thing like when you have a seizure like he was having, just the idea, it's so beautiful and interesting that your brain is this electrical storm, and when somebody has an epileptic fit, right, what's happening is their brain is like, boom, I can't take it, I'm rebooting, boss. I'm rebooting. I'm done. I'm going to reboot after this because this storm went out of hand. And it's like, oh, right, every moment my brain is this storm, and my body has to control this storm. Okay, let's take a look. We got clubs. North Texas, nice. DFW, Dallas, Fort Worth. To me, that's not north, but I get it. I think of like Amarillo, when I think of North Texas. Okay. But that's cool. We have other, you know, Jack Stinglines over there in Austin. We have Nose in Austin, so we definitely have some people in the Texas landscape. So then we got activity, And dude is doing all kinds of stuff. What is he doing non-dojo? Solitaire chess. Okay, interesting. And if we go back one, actually, that's what I should have done to start. Bunch of games and analysis. Great, so we'll look forward to that. And 280 hours. And the tactics and solitaire chess are the main thing that Cross Online is doing. Chess games cause seizures for me. Dang, it's rough. That's what Cross Online is insane. Cross Online is saying. Okay, let's take a look. So we got 2 games. One of them played very recently. So here we go. Boom. I should not have played this game. Jesse, I turned off visibility of all my games but these 2. One showcases my normal bad health and explains my impairment, while the other showcases one of my best games. Dealer's choice. Okay. Well, now is it a 15-minute game? It looks like a 15-minute game. Now, I might choose this one, but I would rather choose one a little longer. Let's just see. What is this one? So, yeah, let's choose this one because it's just a longer game. I mainly teach K3 primary chess. I started with my calling and he responded G6. We arrived at my sparring position. Nice. Okay. Seizure collapsed. Left side went limp. Dang. Man, that's rough. Okay, let's get into it here. Fine. 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 Good. So this is all kind of a known thing. So cool, by the way, if you don't know what he's talking about, what we developed in the dojo with the openings, and this is something we're still developing, is the idea that instead of simply just like trying to memorize a bunch of stuff, what you need to do is find which of your positions that are really central in terms of how you play them and your understanding of them. So for example, classic position here, I'm sure Cross has got this position several times. It's very rich. There's a lot going on. Maybe I'll say a couple words about it. Okay, so C6, A4, good move. Queen C7, let's call it natural. And now B3. Okay. B3 is probably okay. White could do several moves here. My inclination would be to play Queen C2. What's happening? This is just my appreciation of this position, is that Black would love for us to commit ourselves in the center, but we are saying no. So it's going to be a little bit of a game of chicken to see who commits first. If they take, that's a good thing for us, for example. And we need to watch out that D5 is never a great thing for them. So what we are doing is we are holding our center and keeping it fluid for the moment. The other move that I feel has to be okay for you here is knight F1 to G3, just to hold the G3, E4 pawn and to get this out. Anyways, B3, D5, life. Whoa, buddy, slow it down. Now, if this move works out for Black, it's obviously really hectic. It's because they're talking to our nut over here. So you go D, talk about this. Right, and so we have to defend our C3 pawn. That's kind of our little problem. That's a good analysis. Black is at least, Black's bishop on G7 is a boss, right? Okay, so bishop A3, rook E8, and now a very frisky move, rook C1. Okay, so rook C1 is interesting in that we are now accepting, well, depending on how you play it, it feels like you're going to accept an isolated queen pawn. And we're going to be playing for maximum, I was going to say police activity. I don't know why police activity. We're going to be playing for maximum activity, right? With rook c1, we're also just getting out of dodge with this business over here. So very interesting. And in the postmortem, we say, I don't think rook c1 was bad. I just like queen c2 more. Okay. One of the things, too, to learn from this is, like, black can always play d5, and we want to think on every move, is d5 possible? So, for example, on knight f1, my instinct is that d5 is not possible because we go snippos, but it might be more hectic than all that. Like, can they throw that move in? I don't know. I don't know. It gets pretty hectic. Yeah. Okay. So, but let's stick with the game, Kraai. To stay on target. Stay on target. Okay. Rook c1. Good. And then you didn't like bishop e4 because of ed4. See, I thought your intention was going to be to play cd4. And black maybe is better after knight f6, but it's still pretty hot. He can get a similar position, though, here, can't he? Or maybe let's see what you're thinking. And you said h6 dismayed you. I'd be real happy to see h6. I'd be like, oh, man, I kind of want to see h6. By the way, rook e4 is good. I like what you're saying. I understand now. It took me a second. So rook e4 is a good move. And black has opened the position before they've fully developed their coconuts. And so rook c1 and it's hot. We should probably talk about, if the position that we get is forced, then we need to talk about this one, right? Yeah, this is what black probably needs to be doing. And then we have the decision, do we want to open the rook and get the isolated queen pawn? Or do we want to do something fancy like ED? Maybe ED was your intention, but there's a lot of questions to be asked there. DC as well as CD. Okay, but let's stick with the game. So pop, pop, you're looking great. H6, I'm not afraid of that move. Let's see what you do. Queen c2. So you got knight d2, de, queen e2. And the engine wants something wild like queen e2 and f5. Well, another simple move is like, well, if I play rook e1, what's going to happen? Let's give your move a try. Make some sense. I did not see this as one of black's candidate moves. I don't know how impressive it is. So you play de5. Now question, why not knight e5? Right? Because that way he's going to have to give us his coconut over here. Right? I want to take with a knight, yeah, for sure. I would love to have that pawn, that bishop. Okay, wait a second, Kraai. So, wait, I'm just trying to read your mind here. So for a second, so you're maybe against this move because of snip, snap, snook, maybe. But this is a nice position for you because this man, this man has forgotten to develop their pieces, and we got instant questions like here and here. Honestly, well, that's definitely something to consider. Okay, in any case, let's stick with the game. de5 here. I mean, you're just killing him. Kraai, why do you have to say things? He was working him the way it was. So I'm assuming then you played this great, dude. Bishop, because here you just got this, and it's hard to imagine dude ever living. No, you play. It took me a while to understand, but your moves are all correctamundo. Good. And now we're simply winning. I have noticed when I have two equal choices in my mind, rook takes and queen takes, that I end up spending too much time. For me, it is like mental quicksand. I decided after 2 minutes I was going to choose one. Good. I settled on rook e3 because it removed the x-ray from g7. Okay, I'm okay with that. So, knight d5, h3. Okay. Okay. I think another nice alternative would be queen d2. That way we have a threat of c4. And on queen g4, then we play h3. Good move. Not sure. I'm not sure about rook a d8, by the way. I'm not sure what that does. And now you play bishop a3. And you like it. Okay. I'm proud of this move too, man. You're giving him the business on the d file. Rook a8, and now it's like we're in. Beautiful. Beautiful play. Yeah, that's really good. Queen b6, b4. b4 doesn't feel right. Let's see what you say. I wanted badly to add my queen as an attacker on black's weak kingside light squares. In game, I could not find a way. The best I could come up with was b4, c5, queen a2. Okay. So, queen c2 looks pretty good, right? With queen f5 next. I just don't want to block the bishop. However, if you want to tell me you're winning here, I'm not going to complain too much. I now find the move that I overlooked, right? Okay. Knight f8. Cool that you guys did the post-mortem and you say knight e5, knight e5, rook e5, a5, queen a6, bishop b2. Yeah, well, that looks winning, dude. I mean, that looks winning. That's a great position. It's just a monster position because the coconut, there's the king has no defense. Yeah, I think that's winning. So then, but that's obviously not it either. Knight f8. That looks pretty good. And obviously we want to, I called my 6-year-old daughter to share in the joy, but she looked at me like I was crazy for sacking my d7 rook. Huh? It looks good. The only thing that makes me mildly nervous is the bishop on a3 is not in the game. So they try to bring their queen in. Okay. Check to the miserable. Knight e5. Coming in for the kill. That's looking pretty good. That looks good. That looks good. Dang. Take it easy, Bobs. They wanted me to play my one game every 3 days despite the toll it takes on my family. Because you're a vegetable afterwards. I'm also grateful that we have figured out my health enough for me to paint the occasional beautiful chess game. Wow. Okay, this is an incredible story, man. Let me just say, Cross, you are playing great chess, man. That is great chess. Yeah. Yeah, really cool, man. Okay, so you guys, I got to take a break, and I am going to raid somebody, and then we're going to come back for the graduate show pretty pronto here. And let me just see if they already want it in, because sometimes we won't raid.